Hello everyone and welcome to today's session, and in this session we'll be making this cool cursor animation using CSS. And when we hover over any link, you'll see that the cursor expands and the color also changes. And if we hover over the image, you'll see that we have a background blur also applied to it. Okay, so this is what we'll be making, and here I have an empty folder, and you guys also open up this folder, an empty folder, and here I'll just create new file. So first I'll create an index.html file. So is everyone ready? Just type in ready and then we'll start. Someone says ready. Yep, great. Okay, let's begin. So I have an index.html, created an index.html. I'll also create two more files, so style.css and app.js. So inside index.html, I'll write the boilerplate. So for that, just hold shift and press the one key, and this will give you the exclamation mark, and then press enter and you'll get the boilerplate. And let's name this cursor animation. Okay, we have this, and we'll use live server for this project. And live server is an extension in VS Code which gives you live reload, so you don't have to again and again go back to your tab and click Ctrl R or reload the tab. So this is an extension in VS Code, and you can install it by going to extensions tab and search for live server. So if you search for it, you'll see this live server here by request. So install this, and we'll be using this extension in this current project. So go back to this and open up with live server. So right click anywhere and you'll see this button, open with live server. We have this here. So this is the live server, and now what I'm going to do is just write an H1 just to see that everything's working. Hello, and it reloads as well. Okay, great. So after this, what I'm going to do is inside, when we go here, and you'll see we have a navigation bar here. So we'll create the navigation bar and then we'll add an image. So first, let's just complete the HTML part and then we'll move forward to CSS. So for HTML, first I have inside body, I have the nav. So inside nav, I'll just collapse this. Inside nav, I have an H1, which is the logo, and I'll just say animator, and then we have a UL, and I'll give this UL a class of nav links. So I have a UL with nav links, and inside this we have three LIs. So LI first is home, then the next one is contact, and another one which is services. So if I save it, you'll see I have the H1 here and all these links here. So I have that navigation bar here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a section, and say section, enter, and inside the section I have a image. So I'll just write div.front cover, and inside this div I'm going to place that image. So front cover, and inside here I'm going to create an image tag, and in the source I'll add the source of the image which I want. So we'll go to unsplash.com. You can choose any image you want. So let's just select any image. Let's just select this image here. So I'll copy the image address from here and I'll give that address to you as well. So in the chat box I sent the link to you guys, so you can copy that as well, and go inside the source of this image and paste it here. Now if I save it, you'll see that I have an image. It's loading. I should have the image here, but I don't know why it's not working. Let's just select another one. Copy image address, go back here, and in the source I'll paste this here. Yeah, I have this image here. So I'll give you this link. So this works. I don't know why that link isn't working. So I have this image here, and we'll style everything later on. So the images and everything. So we have an image here, and we have animator here, and all these links and the image as well. So the next thing which I'm going to do is I'm going to link the CSS and the JavaScript file. So just let me know if everyone's finished till here, and then we'll move forward. And if you guys have any doubt, you can ask them in the chat box or unmute yourself, whatever you want. Okay, Abhinav says done. Someone also, great. Akshat also says done. Jayashree says done, great. What about others? Akash has also completed it, great. Okay, so let's move forward. So I have my HTML completed, and the next thing which I'm going to do is style all these things a bit. So for that, I have created the style.css file here, and I'm going to link it here. So after the meta tag, before this title, I'm going to link the style sheet, and this is style.css. So I have my style sheet linked, and I'm also going to link the app.js file as well. So just before the body tag ends, I'm gonna create the script file, and the source is app.js. So I have everything here, and in CSS, so let's just write the CSS. And starting the CSS, I'm gonna write the boilerplate code for CSS, which is gonna remove all the default styling applied by the browser. So for that, I'm just gonna create the star and curly brackets, and inside this, I'm gonna write margin is 0, padding 0 as well, and the box sizing should be border box. Save it, and you'll see all the default styling is gone. So now we can style everything just like we want. So first thing which I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a font here. So for that, I'm gonna go to fonts.google.com, and let's just select a font from here. Let's just use Montserrat. So you can go to fonts.google.com, and from here you have a large library of fonts, and you can choose whichever font you want. So we're using Montserrat here. So I'm going to go down and select the regular one, and let's just select the bold one as well. So I'll select it and go here, and I'm going to copy the import tag from here inside the style and import. I'll copy that thing and I'll paste it in the chat box also. So you guys can also use that, and before the star, I'll go here and paste it up here. So I have installed this Montserrat font family in my file, and now I can use it. So after that, I'm gonna say body, and the font family is Montserrat and sans serif. So I have to add this thing, and you can copy this thing from here as well. So font family Montserrat sans serif. So if I go back to my file, you'll see that I have my font applied here. So it looks better than before. The next thing which I'm going to do is, now we have the font. Now I'm going to style this nav bar here. So for that, I'm going to select the nav bar, so nav, and then inside this curly bracket, I'm going to say display flex. You'll see that it's now in the horizontal way. And the next thing which I'm going to do is give it a width of 90%. So width 90%, and then I'm going to justify the content to space between. And now you'll see that it's spread out nicely. And to make it center align, what I'm going to do is give a margin of auto. So now you'll see that it's in the center. So we have equal margin from left and right. Okay, so we have this. And the next thing which I'm going to do is add a min height. So minimum height should be 10 VH, and I'm also going to align everything center. So align item center. So you'll see that I have 10 VH height and everything centered align, and we have horizontal alignment as well by using justify content. And we have this, and yeah, now what I'm going to do is go inside this UL, and I'm going to style this UL a bit, because right now it's in the vertical direction and I have to make it horizontal. So I'll go to nav links. I think I gave it, yeah, nav links. So I'll copy this thing, go here, say dot nav links, and inside this once again I'm gonna give the display of flex. So now it's spread out nicely, and then what I'm gonna do is justify content is space between. Save it. Right now it doesn't work because we have to give this thing width also, so we'll do it in a bit. And what also I have to remove all these bullets because due to li, you know, these bullets are added, so we have to remove that. So for that I'll just say this type is none. Save it. You'll see the bullets are now removed from here. So the next thing which I'm going to do is we have the nav here, and inside nav we have two things. Okay, one is the ul, one is h1. So what I'm going to do is when I go if I go down and select the nav and comma, and if I select the h1, I'm sorry, not nav, I have to select nav links and h1, and when I select these things, so I have selected both of these things which are, you know, inside the nav bar, and we have display flex inside nav bar. So we have a property which is called flex. So if I say flex and 1, if I save it, you'll see that it's spread out. What happens here is when inside nav bar it's a flex box, right? So we have 90% width. So all the items which are inside the nav bar are given equal width. What this thing does is flex 1 does gives equal width to all these things. So if I go here and inspect it, and if I hover over this, you'll see that I have, if I click on this flex, you'll see I have equal width given to both of these things, and we also gave nav link space between, so it's nicely aligned here as well. So this is what this flex one does, and yeah, this is done, I think. And the next thing which I'm going to do is we have to create, just tell me if you guys also completed till here, and then we'll move forward. Okay, great. Abhinav, Saman, Akshat. Parker also says done. Okay, let's move forward. So the next thing which I'm going to do is, you know, we have to create this cursor here. So this cursor is a empty div. Okay, so before this navbar, I'm going to create a div with a class of cursor. So this will be empty, and we have to do everything, you know, styling and all using CSS and JavaScript. So I'll save it. So we have an empty div here, and we'll go to CSS, and what I'm going to do is select that cursor. So cursor, and I'll give it a width of 50 pixels, height of 50 pixels as well, and I'm going to give it a border of 2 pixels, solid and black space. Black. Save it. You'll see I have a square here. So the next thing which I'm going to do is, you know, we are creating a circle, so we have to add border radius. So I'm going to go here and say border radius is 50%. So the square is now a circle. So you know, what we are going to do is using JavaScript, we'll change the position of this element. So this the div, the empty div will change the positions using JavaScript. So for that, what I'm going to do is, right now I'll just give it a position of absolute, so it's removed from the flow. And now the next thing which I'm going to do is I'll just move forward to JavaScript, and we'll add all these, you know, transition and everything after we select this thing. So inside JavaScript, what I'm going to do is just select the cursor first. So I gave it a class of cursor. So here I'll say let mouse is document dot query selector, and here I'll say just cursor. And here we are using let because we have to, you know, we are selecting and we have to change all the positions of this mouse using JavaScript. So that's why we are using let here. And we'll also select the nav links. So again, nav links is document dot query selector, and we'll select all the links. So query selector all, and I'll just say dot nav links and li. So we have all the links as well. So now what I'm going to do is, when we're using JavaScript, we have available this window function. So everything here is called window. So if I just go here and say window dot add event listener, and when we move our mouse, so we have this thing which is called mouse move, an event listener. Okay, so when we add this, and I'm just going to create a function which is called cursor. So right now I'll just add an event listener to this window, and the function which is what it's going to do is, let's just create the function, and this will be called cursor, and this will have a parameter e, and then inside this what I'm going to do is just console log this e, so you'll see what happens. So if I go here and inspect it and go back to console, and when I move my mouse, so you'll see I have all these properties of this mouse event. So if I move it, you'll see whenever I move it, I have this e function, this mouse move thing, and I have all these properties of this mouse. So everything which is client X, client Y, where we are right now, so screen X, screen Y, all these properties which we want to, whichever we want to use, we can use them, right? So right now from here what we're going to do is just select the page X and page Y. So this is the exact position of the cursor. So page X and page Y, we'll be using these two properties. So what I'm going to do is remove this console log, and I'm going to set the mouse, so this cursor, X position to page X and Y position to page Y. So for that I'll just say mouse, which I selected, dot style, so style dot top, so the top thing will be e dot page Y, and this is the value, and then we have to add pixels as well. So for that I'll just say plus, and inside these quotes I'll add pixels px, and same thing which I have to do for page X also. So I'll again say mouse dot style dot left is equals to e dot page X, and then plus and pixels. If I save it, you'll see now I have this cursor, this div moving around with my mouse, but right now it's not centered aligned, so we have to make it using CSS. But this cursor basic thing is done, right? I hope everyone got it. So just write in the chat box if everyone got it, and then we'll move forward. Yeah, someone says got it. Amazing. Akshat also got it. Great. Akash also got it. That's amazing. Okay, so the next thing which I'm going to do is align this circle in the center, or the cursor to the center. So for that I'm going to go to CSS again, and inside this cursor what I'm going to do is just write in transform and then translate to -50% and -50%. So I hope this works. Yeah, now everything works, and this circle is right now right at the center of this cursor. So this thing works. And the next thing which I'm going to do is, when we hover over all these links, we want to change the scale as well. But right now you'll see that if you go on these links and try to select them, you'll see that we are not able to select it. That's because we have a div here just below the cursor. So when we go here, the div is above that, so we cannot select it. So we have to add one more property, which is called pointer events none. Okay, so we have to add that to cursor only. So I'll go here and I'll add the pointer events to none. So now if I go back here, and now I have everything, I can select all these things and everything works fine. So pointer event basically just makes this cursor to be not selected, so we can't select anything from here. So it's when we go here and we can select all these links. And the next thing which I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new class. So when we hover over all these links, a new class is added. So the scale class, when I go over here, and you'll see the scale happens, right? So the black thing and all these things appear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file. I'll just call it scale.scale, and I'm going to give the background color black, and I'll say transform scale to 2. So if I go over here, right now it doesn't work because we have to add it using app.js. But what this thing does is basically when we go over here and hover over it, so the class of scale is added to the cursor, right? So in JavaScript, what I'm going to do is go here, and after the function, I'm going to select the nav link. So nav links dot for each. So I'm going to create this for each function. So what that does is it sees the nav links. So we have everything and goes over all these links. So for each, and then inside this I'm going to create a function and which will have the links. So all the individual links, and I'm going to create an arrow function here. So equal to and this sign, and inside these curly brackets I'm going to say link. So I have access to this link inside this function. So link dot add event listener dot add event listener, and I'm going to add a event listener of mouse over. So what that does is when we go over this link, so this is called the mouse over. So when we come over and the mouse comes over this link, this says mouse over, and when we leave this link, so that event is called mouse leave. So we'll use that as well, but right now we'll just add this mouse over thing, and then after mouse over and create one more function here. So one more arrow function, and inside this I'm just gonna say mouse dot class list dot add, and we created the class scale, right? So if I save it, and now if I go over any link, you see the class is added here, right? But if I go if I leave that link, the class is not removed, so we have to remove that as well. But right now it works fine. So if I refresh it once again and go over here, and this works. So the next thing which I'm going to do is we added the class, and now I'm going to remove the class as well. So link dot add event listener, and like I told you, the event will be mouse leave, L-E-A-V-E, leave. And what that thing does is basically an anonymous function. So here, anonymous function. Inside this, I'm just gonna say mouse, or I'm just gonna copy this thing from here, paste it here, and just change the add to remove. So now if I go here, it adds, and if I leave my mouse, it removes the class. But you see the animation right now is abrupt, so we have to add transitions as well. So for that, what I'm going to do is go back to my CSS, and inside cursor I'm going to add a transition. So the transition will be all, and let's say 0.2 seconds, and ease in and out. Save it, and you see that we have a problem here. So if I go here, and you see that whenever this function this div is moved, so a transition of ease in and out is added. So we don't need that animation in all of the hovering thing which we're doing. We only want this animation to happen when we hover the link, or when only these properties are applying, right? So background and transform scale. So what I'm going to do is, just after transition, what we have one more property in CSS which is called transition property. So this transition property, and this specifies the property which we are transitioning. So I'll just say background, so BACK background, so background property and the transform property. If I save it, you see that now when we move around here, it doesn't happen, the transition is not applied, but when we go here, the transition is applied. So now it looks better than before, because that was looking pretty bad. So we have that here as well, but you'll see that we have one more problem, that when we hover over here, so the it's not expanding from the center, it's expanding from the top left, right? So we have to specify the transition origin as well. So once again, we have another property which is called transform origin. So transform origin, so 100% top and bottom and 100% left and right. Save it, you'll see that now it expands from the center. So if I go over here, you'll see that everything expands nicely, correctly, but we have to change the color of this text as well, right? So what I'm going to do is, just after this, I'm going to create one more class which will say .hover link. So when we hover over that link, so we have to add that class as well, which changes the color. So I'll just write color is F6, so white color, and I'll go back to app.js where I've added this class here. So I'll add the class of hover link to the link. So inside this link I have access to that individual link. Then link.classList.add, and I'm gonna add the class of hover link. Save it, and now if I go over here, okay, it doesn't work. Let's see what's happening. Hover link, mouse over hover link should work. Yeah, I think I got it. The problem is when we go here, the Z index of this cursor thing is right, you'll see that the color is changed, but we can't see it because the Z index of this cursor is above, because we added a position absolute. So we have to add a Z index of -1, so it goes back. So I'll add Z index -1, and now you'll see we are able to see everything correctly. So if I hover over that, but the color is applied but it's not removed, so I have to remove this thing as well, just like we did on the mouse. Go back here and just add remove, save it, and now you'll see when I go over here, the color is added, and if I remove it, the color is removed, that class is removed. And one more thing which we can do is go in CSS, and where are the nav links, and we'll make the links bold. So the nav links and li and font weight is bold, let's say bold. Now it looks better. So if I go over here, everything works fine and the color also changes, but we have a few more issues with it. That right now the cursor is down -1, so we have to add position relative to this image so that it works fine. So we have to select the image here as well. What do we call it? So we call it front cover, and inside that we have the image. So dot front cover, go here and add position of relative, and yeah, save it. No, not this. Select image as well. Okay, we have to add Z index as well to this. The index of -3. Let's say -3. So now it works. We have the position absolute to this one, the cursor, and position relative. Someone says my transform origin is not working. Okay. Let's just I'll just complete this thing and then we'll see. Okay, someone. Yeah. So this works fine as well, and I think everything's completed. But just we have to add one more thing, which is the backdrop filter, right? So when we hover over this, we have to add the backdrop filter. So it's just only one line. When we go over cursor, we have option, which is a property which is called backdrop filter. Yeah, this one. And here we have too many properties. So first, let's say grayscale. Okay, so if I say grayscale and save it, okay, we have to add this also. So grayscale. So when we hover over this, you'll see that the image which is behind that cursor is the color changes, right? So either you can add grayscale, or here we are just using blur. So blur is the function, and inside these parentheses we just have to add how much blur we want. So here we are just adding 3 pixels of blur. So if I save and see that now the blur is added to the image, not the image but this thing which is the cursor, and it only applies, the backdrop filter only applies to images. And one more thing which you can do here is, if you want to remove the cursor, so you can go to body and just say cursor to none. Now if you save it, you'll see that the cursor is removed and you only have the circle here, and everything works perfectly fine, and all these things also work. And one more thing which you can add here is, if you go over, when you hover over the link, you have to be above that link only. So you can add a bit of padding to all these links, so you can, when you're near that link, that grows, the circle grows. So inside li you can just add a bit of padding. So padding, let's say 16 pixels, save it, and you'll see that now if I go near it, it will expand. and I hope everything is fine, working fine. We have all these things which we are making, so let me check. Yeah, this works fine, and blur also. So yeah, that's the function, the project which we are making, the small CSS project. We have this cursor here, and we have, when we hover over these links, it expands, and when we hover over the image, the background is blurred. So I hope everyone got it. Just write down if yes, if you got it, and yeah, someone has some doubt, so we'll see that as well. But what about others? Do you guys enjoyed it? I got some error in mouse over, I think. Okay, we'll see Akshat, whatever the error is. But let's see what others have to say. Did you guys enjoy it? How do you guys think this looks like? Yeah, it's very cool effect, and right, you'll see that it's so easy to make cursor animations, and you must have seen these kind of cursors in different kinds of websites. You can customize it just anywhere you want. Let's say you want to, you don't want this border, but you want just a small dot. Yeah, someone says we'll definitely use this in future, and yeah, someone use it. And if you want, you can share that thing which you made in the Discord server with us. We'll all see it. And yeah, so this is everything. This is the thing which we're making, and thank you guys for joining, and we'll be having more such sessions in the future. So if you guys have any suggestions which the things which we should make, so do let us know, and we'll try to cover all these things in the future coming sessions, right? And yeah, you can join the Discord server using the link which is in the chat box here, and here we have all, you'll get all these things. And if you have any doubt, you can go there and ask all the doubts and share the work which you have made with us.